I awoke, feeling some scrap metal half tangled in my mane, and shook my head, tossing it away and receiving a sting of pain as it cut across the side of my face. I sighed. Great. More crazy. Dream? Enclave? Mind control device finally kicking in? Possession? What kind of commentary was it on my life when I couldn't count out any of those? You know, all things considered, in light of the last day or two, I think I might have made a mistake in coming back to Hoofington, I said as I dangled in the middle of a pitch-black shaft by one of my forelegs. It had gotten caught in a tangle of cable as I plummeted past. The elevator car had gotten jammed above me and was letting out groans every time I wiggled around too much. I had no idea how far I'd fallen, or how far there was left to fall, or what exactly awaited me at the bottom. I thought for a moment that I heard P-21 and Rampage yelling my name, but now everything was silent. Of course, I could have answered at least one of those questions by timing how long it took that scrap to fall, if I'd been paying attention. It had actually hit the bottom, right? Oh, idea. I sniffed and snorted and coughed and hacked and finally worked up a nice wad of phlegm, then turned my head and spat, letting it fall. My ears strained, and I heard a very distant plat far below. The elevator let out a protesting noise as I twisted, trying to see anything in the blackness that the dim red light from my eyes was, if anything, just highlighting. Pen-thin beams made lousy flashlights. Then the cable suddenly slipped along my leg. I waved my other limbs wildly in the dark, looking for something to hold on to, and then, just as the leg came free, extended my fingers and seized the cables and held them with both forelegs. There was a tense moment as I hung there, looking up at the place where my brain saw the faintest suggestion of a dark red leg, but the metallic digits held. Okay, Rover, wherever you are, you're right. Thumbs are better. I swung my hind legs until one hooked the cable to better support my weight. Then the elevator gave another groan and jerk. Now, how to use these freaky thumb powers to get out of here? From somewhere below came a number of mechanical bangs. Okay, thumb powers extended. Maybe. I couldn't do more than turn a page with my horn. I tried to remember the magic primer as I swung there under the groaning elevator. Magic was internal, not a bunch of magical words, chants, and incantations. And all unicorn horns glowed when we did magic. I just needed mine to glow more. I closed my eyes and imagined a little star shedding light like a candle. That's what I needed. Light. Lighty, light, light. The electric crackle grew in my horn as it tingled. I opened an eye. Nothing. I clenched my eyes shut and twisted my face into ridiculous expressions. Still nothing. Finally, it might not have been the most magical of methods, but I just made like I had the worst case of constipation ever, gripped my teeth, and pushed. Then there was a pop and a discharge like when I fired a magic bullet, followed by a zap and an immense sense of relief. I stared at the tiny mote of light hanging in front of me. I did it, I muttered, weakly, staring in shock as I stared at it. Then it sank in. I did it! I cheered in glee, whooping. Suddenly, the elevator car lurched as it dropped a foot, making me gulp. Then I looked at my little spell, my compact spell, and grinned and silently cheered. The feeling of euphoria quickly faded as I looked around and saw nothing but four walls and the elevator's two guide rails. I gingerly stretched one of my forehooves towards the nearest rail, but was still short. I closed my eyes and forced a grin, shaking my head. I didn't like it. Not one bit. But it wasn't as if I had any other ideas. I swung my hind end one way and then the other, back and forth. The elevator car began to squeal in time with my swings. Just stay up there a little longer. It let out a cry as I let go of the cable and smacked into the rail, all four limbs hugging it tight. Okay, this was progress. Now, All I had to do was slide down the rail to a door. Easy as pie. See? I was already sliding. Sliding really fast. What exactly was the speed difference between sliding down a rail and falling down alongside one? My enameled limbs were squealing, and my chest was getting pretty damn toasty, rubbing up against the metal. Wait, was this thing oiled or something? Oh shit! I yelled as I fell away from the rail. I fell to my death for a few seconds before I slammed my back against a curved metal surface that gave beneath me, slowing my fall with a growing hum. "Oh there, little lady," a robotic male drawled. I slid along the metal, my hooves banging and scratching the hovering orb before I dropped and fell into a tangle of robotic limbs. The 3 cameras, that apparently served as its eyes, turned to focus on me. "I was told him this elevator was unsafe for pony travel, but has anybody listened to old Hank? No!" Please don't explode. Please don't explode. I really, really hoped that the joke had finally run its course as I clung to the levitating robot. "I ain't gonna explode. Old Hank's the finest handy you ever seen. Oof. You sure are a healthy girl, aren't you?" The robot crackled as we dropped down the shaft. "Need to maximize my levitation repulsor drive." I, just have more metal in me than most mares. No shooting the life-saving robot over a weight joke, Blackjack. I looked around the elevator shaft. "Is that so? Shoot. And here old Hank was convinced my sense of talismans were Fritz for good. Looking at you, I couldn't tell if you were mechanical or biological. Good thing I kept my access probe to myself. Wouldn't want to get fresh." We finally reached the bottom of the shaft. 2 tunnels led off in different directions. I slipped out of Hank's limbs and onto the concrete floor, very, very glad to be back on something solid again. "I don't suppose that you know where I can find Sanguine, do you?" The spidery robot floating there for a moment, and then I added, "I think his name is Trueblood?" "The doc? Oh, he's probably somewhere in the facility over yonder, making big old messes and things. I keep on putting out repair citations and notifications and the like, but no pony's gotten back to poor old Hank since we got the call for the big sleep." "Big sleep?" I frowned. "Oh, it was a long time ago. Big order went out to power down and wait for further commands. Most of us done and went quiet like the rest of the city. Of course, Manhattan Quad B was left out. The 4 of us tried to keep everything neat and tidy, but after a while things broke down and wore out. Old Hank's all that's left to keep things working." He sighed. "Seems like a damn shame. We had so much work we needed to do. Floors to polish, hinges to oil, and I haven't gotten around to fixing Miss Moonstar's desk drawer. Hope she's not too cross." I frowned. I'd never thought of the bombs falling from a machine's point of view. I tried to imagine having a life and then suddenly being told to sleep, then waking up to find that everything that was important to me was gone. Did old Hank realize that Moonstar had probably been dead for 2 centuries? That the world beyond this facility was smashed and broken? Could it imagine that? "What do you mean when you say that Trueblood's breaking things?" I asked. "Well, he ain't much of an engineer," old Hank muttered. "He's trying to wake the machines down below. Shooty things. Never really talk to us much. All kinds of medical staff that make a powerful mess when they leak. Don't know why he bothers. But lately it seems every pony's yelling at once for us to wake up again." "Yelling at you?" "Started a few weeks back. General alarm went out to the Hoofington region. Zebra megaspell attack. Woke up some emergency systems, and those woke up some communication systems, and those woke up some command systems, and now none of them have a clue what we're supposed to do. But there's some folk, like the doc, who keep saying we're supposed to do what he says, and at the same time we're supposed to do what the core command says, and at the same time we're getting core commands to not do what the core command says. It's enough to make poor old maintenance ball like myself pop his processor gems." He gave a huff. If you don't mind me saying so, you biologicals sure do like to cross your wires. I thought about that with a frown. So you're telling me that some pony out there is giving you commands to wake up and do things, but some pony else is telling you not to do them? Mm-hmm. Between the alert that went out now, there's been around 402,790,112 commands issued and 402,790,076 counter commands issued. Makes it might trickery for a bot to get his job done. Wait, I might not have had a head for numbers like Glory, but even I knew that those didn't add up. Why fewer countermans? I asked. Well, I don't rightly know. I just clean things up, Old Hank replied in faint exasperation. Of course, even Old Hank got the order to apply my rotary saw to the doc's head. Don't rightly know why. But then I got countermanded a millisecond later, and I just went back to cleaning. But personally, I reckon whoever's making the commands is a mite faster and cleverer than whoever's canceling them. And whoever was making the commands was trying to kill Sanguine. Suddenly, all this talk of running out of time was starting to make more sense. Eventually, one of those commands would get through. But it didn't make sense, really. Why didn't he just go? Lots of ponies had trouble leaving Hoofington, but it was hard for me to imagine a pony like him not being able to set up shop somewhere else. He'd been trying to get Chimera for Red Eye, and he'd given me the evil villain experiment on the wasteland speech. Either would have been good enough motivation, but something didn't quite fit. When he'd heard that I'd died, he'd canvassed a trail of butchery to flush me out, because something in the core had woken up and was after him. Why not simply leave? A ghoul of Sanguine's capacity had options. Something I had kept here. Chimera? Was that something so important to him that he would risk his life? Risk everything for it? I just didn't see it. He'd lived well enough without Chimera for 2 centuries.